Welcome to the Strategic Magic Podcast.
I'm your host, Blue, and I am a business coach and astrological advisor for service-based entrepreneurs, helping you to use astrology to start, grow, and scale your business. I'm so excited to be yet again bringing you another episode. And today we are continuing the conversation of exactly how to use your astrological birth chart to start, grow, and scale your business. So if you are just getting introduced to the podcast, I do recommend starting with last week's episode all about the Midheaven placement, which is my absolute favorite place to start and the number one place that I recommend for entrepreneurs who are just getting started with this work to begin. So definitely make sure you check that out. But if you're all caught up, let's continue on the journey with the second place to go once you've met and begun to activate your midheaven. So when I'm working with people who are interested in business astrology, period, one of the most frequently asked questions that I get is, how do I figure out what to do for my business or my career in astrology? Like, how do I do that? And like I mentioned in last week's episode, most people assume that it is the midheaven placement, but the midheaven is only one of many placements in your birth chart that we can look to determine what your best career path will be. And for business owners and entrepreneurs especially, it is really important to, yes, start with the midheaven, but also not get stuck there and neglect the other points in your chart that can really support you in sorting out the best career path for you. So once you've uncovered your midheaven placement and you've begun to activate it, you've begun to really step into that legacy energy that you will bring into all of the work that you do. The next place that we want to look to are the wealth houses. And I'm kind of cheating here because the wealth houses aren't just one house. There are three houses in particular in the chart that point to work, career, and that are an extension of what is touched upon with the midheaven. So while the midheaven is your legacy energy, it is your vocation, the wealth houses specifically focus on the tangible career aspect of that. So while your vocation touches on every aspect of your life, your work, no matter what it is that you do, the wealth houses speak more specifically to the day-to-day, the actual what it is that you're doing. And so this is a really important place to focus on when it comes to business astrology, because this is so much more tangible in terms of giving you direction to what your career ultimately can look like. So what are the wealth houses specifically? The wealth houses, like I mentioned, are three houses in your birth chart. And they are specifically the second house, the sixth house, and the 10th house. So each of these houses, they come together and they ultimately point to your career. But individually as well, they talk about three different aspects of your career. And I find that it is so helpful with uncovering a lot of the questions that people have about business and astrology, period. So let's go through them and kind of walk through that process. So the first house in the three wealth houses is the second house. So this is right after the first house in your natal chart. Because I am a traditional astrologer that uses whole sign houses exclusively, each of these houses are going to be ruled by one singular zodiac sign in your chart. And this is all determined by which house rules your rising sign. So your second house is going to be the first sign after your rising sign. So for me, I'm a Leo rising, which makes Virgo the ruling sign of my second house, so on and so forth. The second house deals with themes of personal value. So while the first house is all about you as the individual, the second house is beginning this journey in understanding who you are in relation to other people and the world around you. So the second house deals with value. What is it that is important to you? What is a priority? This also speaks to themes of what is an innate talent or an innate gift that you have. The second house also deals with themes of finances. It deals with resources and ultimately just the ways in which that we are able to understand and relate to value, really. So the second house is really important in determining what your career is, because this really speaks to what your gifts are. What is not just your why, but what is the thing that you are uniquely qualified to support people in? And so we can look to a few things with this. First, of course, it's the archetype of the zodiac sign that rules the second house in your chart. So for me, with Virgo being in the second house, Virgo speaks to themes of service. Virgo is a mutable earth sign. So it's adaptable, but it is also craving the stability of creating tangibility in something that will last a long time. There are so many ways that you can interpret it just on that alone, but you can also add nuance based on, okay, are there any planets that are in this chart? What are the aspects to those planets, to other planets in the chart? And if this is lost on you as well, I do have blog posts that speak to the foundations of astrology. So if you're not quite sure what an aspect is, what the planets represent, don't worry, I got you. Make sure you check out the show notes for all of that. But when we zero into the second house as a business owner, this really speaks to what is the value that you already have that you can leverage in your business. If your business is a vehicle for creating a tangible service to bring out into the world, the second house speaks to what that service could be. So for me, it made a whole lot of sense to get into coaching. And actually, now that I think about it, I've been leading with my second house for most of my career because I started off as a freelance writer, Virgo being ruled by Mercury. Writing is a very mercurial career to have. And then expanding upon that, I took those same skills, built upon it, really getting into that earth sign energy and that mutable energy. And I shifted, became a certified sex educator, literally helping to service other people and speak to a lot of like taboo topics relating to sex and sexuality, teaching on that, really emphasizing that teaching aspect, right? And then there's also the adaption of going from being a sex educator to now, okay, I'm now also working with other sexuality professionals, helping them to literally use their skills to create a full-time business from. So really tapping into the second house themes. And then once again, taking all of those skills and adapting it even further with the work that I do now with not only teaching about business astrology, but helping business owners to literally use their astrological birth chart as a tool to grow and scale their business. So the second house is really great if you're starting out or if you're in a stage of trying to navigate what are the skills that I have, what is the value that I bring, what is it that I already know that I can do, and how can I begin to translate that to a tangible service that other people will also find valuable. All right, so the second house in the three wealth houses is the sixth house. And this speaks to themes of day-to-day routines. This is the wellness house. Helpful in taking what we've learned from the second house and now evolving it into what can be tangible, right? So taking literally the services, the things that we are innately good at, where our gifts naturally are in our chart, and translating that to what can be done in a literal job. Like how can this be helpful on a day-to-day basis to other people? And so the sixth house also speaks to what our literal job is. So for some of us, this points to maybe having a day job that doesn't really connect with the themes of the midheaven or the second house, but it's literally there just to create security and stability for us in order to expand on those things in other ways. And then for others of us, especially those who are business owners on their own, right? This can point to the way that you yourself are meant to do business. So in my chart, I naturally have my Neptune Uranus conjunction happening in my sixth house. So there's really this like supportive energy of not only creating my own business, but really being somebody who is here to thrive best in an environment where I'm able to not necessarily have like the same day-to-day structure. There's room for that flexibility to be there and also to support people and think about my own gifts and services in different ways. So the sixth house is really an important house. It's so slept on when we're talking about the houses because maybe it's not as sexy as like the themes of the other houses, but we all need the sixth house there in order to create stability and routine and the structure in place so that we are able to expand upon it further in other ways. And so the last house in the 3 wealth houses is the 10th house. We talked about this quite a bit in our discussion about the midheaven, but the 10th house is separate from being the midheaven because, as you may know, the midheaven is not always in the 10th house. The 10th house speaks to themes of legacy, career. It is the vocation house, and it's ultimately the house that points to what your legacy energy is going to be. And so there is natural overlapping that happens between the themes of the midheaven and the themes of the 10th house. And when you have your midheaven in the 10th house, there is an amplification of those themes. But even if your midheaven doesn't fall here, or you don't have other placements, other planets that are here, the 10th house is a really powerful point in the chart to look to when it comes to overall, like, what is the legacy that you're here to do. This can be really helpful if you're looking for natural inspiration behind the why, the overall mission of your business, which can inform the ways that you look at the second house and the sixth house, which are more tangible. So let's say that you're kind of struggling with figuring out, like, what is your overall mission? Like, how could you help people, right? You can look to the themes of the 10th house to get inspiration with that. And this can help align you more personally to the second house and the sixth house. So let's say your vocation, you're an artist, you're a creative entrepreneur, and you literally make art. You may think to yourself, like, okay, how can I literally be of service to people by making art? If your legacy is that you are here to make art, like, art is very healing. It's beautiful, right? So the second house can maybe point to the types of art that you create. And the sixth house can maybe point to, okay, like, can you translate the skills that you have in creating beauty and using beauty as a tool for XYZ? Can you translate that into being an art teacher? Can you translate that into being an art content creator, to literally hosting live streams of you making your art, of teaching people about the history of your art medium of choice? And can you also use your art to amplify other causes, right? Other things. Maybe you have an 11th house midheaven and you're literally here to bring community together around the impact of art, the advocacy of art, why art is so important and integral into our lives, why people need creative expressions in order to have the courage to step into who they are meant to be. Like, all of this can point back to that legacy and that vocation of you're here to make art. So you could begin to see how each of the wealth houses alone point to different themes that support how you think about career when it comes to astrology and business. But together, when they come together, it is so powerful because they all fit in answering a specific question within the process. And so by bringing together the themes of the second house, the sixth house, and the 10th house, you're able to get a better understanding of what your career literally is and how to bring astrology into business. And so what I want to extend to you is think about what are the literal themes of each of the wealth houses for you. What planets do you have in the second house, the sixth house, and the 10th house? What is the zodiac sign that is ruling each of these houses for you? What are the aspects? How are the second house, the sixth house, and the 10th house literally in relationship with each other and also the other houses in your chart? Do you have any stelliums? Do you have like a lot of planets in any of these houses? This can also point you in the direction of how to use this energy and how to start thinking about it. And of course, these houses are not here to tell you what your career needs to be, but you can use the wisdom of these houses to point to really living in your midheaven energy and bringing the themes of your legacy into reality through your career as a business owner. And so this is like the very introduction to the work that we do and why astrology for business is so important, especially as a business owner that is looking to grow and scale their business. And so when we work together inside of one-on-one astrology coaching, this is actually what we do. Not only do we literally look at your chart and spend a lot of time with your wealth houses, getting to know them, getting to know the energy of it, but we actually work together one-on-one to translate the energy of these houses into your actual business. So how do you take the second house and use the energies of the second house to create a tangible signature offer that is built around your natural services? How do we use the energy of the sixth house to create stability in your business so that there is longevity that can be built? How do we tap into the themes of the 10th house so that everything that you do in your business is cohesive and it is feeding into that fulfillment that you desire while also being really important and helpful to the people that you work with that need it the most? And so we really work together to uncover the answer to those questions and to use your natal chart as a tool, like every other tool you have, in order for you to become an even more successful business owner. And so if you're interested in working together inside of one-on-one coaching, the link to that, as well as everything else that I've mentioned in this episode, will be available in the show notes. So be sure to check that out. All right, that is everything I have for you in today's episode. Let me know, out of all of the wealth houses, which of the three, the second house, the sixth house, and the 10th house, do you have questions on? And I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.